We need different people in our lives at different times for different reasons. And we all have a different sense of community, but we need somebody to watch out for us and we can watch out for them. Where, maybe the answer is, hey, we're going to talk on the phone every day for 5 minutes, just check in with each other. That's fine. You can build a support system that prevents abuse. The key is not to be isolated. If you're isolated and you're relying on one person to do all of it, then let's be real, they could just take advantage of you.
Welcome to the Childfree Wealth Podcast, hosted by Bree and Dr. J, Certified Financial Planner. Here we discuss life and finances as it relates to being child-free. This podcast is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Please consult your advisor before implementing any ideas heard on this podcast.
I've been doing a lot of research on elder years and how do we care for folks, specifically child-free folks, soloists, others as they age. And I found the stat, this is from AARP, that 1 out of 10 adults who are elders have admitted to being kind of part of elder abuse. They've been abused in one way or another. And that's what they report. That's not necessarily what's really going on, but that stat really kind of stopped me in my tracks. I'm like, that is awfully high, because if you think about what's underreported, I mean, it's probably triple that at least in real life. And that's scary.
Yeah, it's terrifying. I mean, I can't remember what it is now, but there's a movie that kind of talks about elder abuse, and especially in nursing homes. And there are so many things. I am incredibly protective of my family, incredibly protective of them. And my grandma, if she ever says something and it's like, oh, well, they said, my answer is, no, grandma, they did not say. What do you want? I will go to bat for her any single day, because at the end of the day, she's a human being with a voice and an opinion too. And that's how all elders are. It's incredibly important. But how do you advocate for your family, and how do you advocate for yourself as well?
Yeah, and we're going to talk about this under kind of two different parts. One is like, how do you protect your elders? And the other part is how to protect yourself as an elder. And they're going to be slightly different, but I want to start with how do you protect your elders, your parents, your grandparents, whatever it might be for you, because then it gives you an idea of some of the things that are going to go on and some of the things you need to protect yourself from. And the unfortunate truth is, a lot of the elder abuse is from family members, friends, and others that are close. Like it is a big problem. And I'd love to say it doesn't exist, but it does. So let's start with kind of some of the financial stuff, just because that's where we live. And financial abuse can be as simple as, well, I'm not going to spend money on mom because I'm in the will and I want the money at the end. Which sounds harsh, but that one is way more common than you'd ever believe. I'm going to guess it's probably one of the more common elder abuse things. And there's not great stats on it because it's not well reported. The amount of folks that are making decisions around their parents to protect their own finances in the end is scary. The financial stuff around inheritances and all that just makes people do dumb stuff. You'll see it where the obvious ones are like, oh, I'm going to put mom in the cheap home because then it's going to save I get more money at the end. Or I'm not going to give her care. Or I'm going to have her move in with me so that, I don't have to pay for it. Now, if you're caring for your elder and doing it appropriately and saving money, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you're not going to give them some type of care, food, life, support because you're trying to protect your money.
It happens. And I think it's something important to point out, because with all of this, people need to remember that it's not really your money. It's their money. And their money is there to feed them, clothe them, protect them, food, water, shelter, all those primary things. And if there's things left over at the end, okay. But that should not be a reason for you to change the level of care in which they get because you want to keep more for yourself.
Yeah, and I'm kind of harsh on this a little bit, and I'm just going to be transparent on that. So my grandmother, it's a great example of this, and she was having cognitive decline, kind of going downhill. And she was at a very nice care facility. I mean, actually very nice, and paying the bills and doing the thing, but not really kind of matching her life and what she cares about. And she wasn't really doing well. Well, it's actually more expensive to provide 24-hour care in your house. But you know what? My grandmother worked hard her whole life. Her and my grandfather, they owned multiple restaurants, and they actually owned a motel and other things. And they had made some money. And I'm like, let's just pay for 24-hour care. Just pay out of pocket. Let her be in her house, get that care. And the hard part is sometimes you're not getting the medical care you need because they may not be medical professionals. They were actually members from a local church that came together and did this. So it's kind of more, kind of emotional, physical support. But it's expensive. But to me, that's my grandmother's money. Like, that's her money to spend. And if at the end, end up doing a reverse mortgage on the house to get money out, whatever, and she dies with zero, I'm okay with that.
Hey, Childfree Wealth listeners, it's Bree. I highly encourage you to schedule a Childfree Wealth checkup. During this time, you're going to get a couple of forms to fill out that include your life and financial plan. We'll review them, and then we're going to have a meeting and go through them with you. We're going to give you some advice and things to work on and talk through things to make your finances simpler so your life can be amazing. You can schedule yours by going to our website, childfreewealth.com, and clicking the Schedule Now button. Yeah, it took care of her and it did what it needed to. I have a very strong feeling that money is not there to provide inheritance for somebody else. It is to take care of the person who has it and has earned it. And, grandma dying with zero because the money took care of her. Perfect.
Yep. I'm going to keep going the grandmother's example. One of my colleagues, her grandmother passed, and her uncle, which would be her grandmother's son, showed up at the funeral and said, "Hey, do you have checks for me?" That was the question. I'm like, grandma's not even in the ground, and you're asking, we got a problem. We can get past that. And if I go back to my grandmother, early on, she was managing her own finances, and somebody called and sold her a cruise. Now, my grandmother really had never been on a plane, never left the country, doesn't go on cruises. I have no clue how this person sold them a cruise, but they did. They called her at the right time. She had the credit card number, gave it to them, and it took us months to get that money back and a huge fight. But that's actually a really common scam to take advantage of elderly as they're going through their tough times.
Yeah, anything to the cruises, calling and saying, "Hey, I'm in trouble, I need money." All those things. It's the amount of different ways they found to scam people. Or now the latest one is your unpaid tolls, which they kind of do to everybody. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and Bree's mentioning one, and this is one of those fun ones for grandparents. One of the common ones now is they'll spoof their grandkid's phone number, call up as the person, say, "Hey, sorry, grandma, I'm in jail. Something happened. I need bail money. Can you wire it?" And it will sound like their grandkid. And grandma's like, "All right, I don't like what happened, but let me get you out of trouble and trying to do the right thing." And sudden, they're wiring money to get their grandkid out of jail because it looks like their grandkid's phone number, sounds like their grandkid. This is all stuff AI does, not a big deal. It's a problem. Now, to protect them, what you can do is get listed on their bank accounts as a trusted person. Banks are actually getting very good at, kind of looking at it saying, "Wait a minute, grandma, you have not wired money to anyone ever. And all of a sudden you're wiring 10K. I actually had to wire some money for a business purpose, and it triggered one of those. And I got the phone call, and they're like, "We need to make sure you weren't asked to give money to your grandkids." I'm like, "Listen, I ain't got no kids. It just it's not happening." But the trusted person can't control the account, but it can slow things down. They're looking for weird things, and it's a way to protect them. To make sure. And when we get to this question of how to protect yourself, that's a different one because you may or may not have somebody put as your trusted person. But if you have elderly folks that you're keeping an eye on, The answer is get listed on their accounts as trusted person. I will also say there's a point, and it's probably sooner than you think it is, where you should just take over finances for your elderly person. Where you should be listed as a power of attorney and just manage it for them. Because the problem is they're getting these scams all the time. And Bree mentioned this unpaid toll one. I got that one the other day. Hey, XYZ toll company, you owe money, blah, blah, blah. And it was interesting because it was actually worded well enough. And by the way, I've messed toll. So I mean, I absolutely could owe toll money. But what I did is I went to the website on my own, logged in on my own. And at the website, it was for Easy Pass. It was like, yeah, you owe nothing. And I'm like, oh, all right. But as you get older, you're like, I guess I owe this bill. I'm just going to pay it. And it's like, they're getting smart because they're like, it's $25 or $50. And they're like, am I going to bother my family member about, do I really owe $25? No, I'm just going to pay it. And come to find out, you can actually pay a call center overseas to be scamming people on your behalf in order to make these money.
That's so ridiculous.
I mean, it's just a business to them. They're like, hey,
yeah.
I'll follow the script. It's no different than I'm trying to sell your auto warranty. I'm just
yeah. Well, I mean, the smaller amounts is smarter too, because who thinks about it? Oh yeah. Well, I mean, a couple years ago, we ended up being in California and had a toll, and it was like $50. We thought we paid it. We didn't. Okay. And that was real, but it's something. Oh, okay. I didn't pay my toll. Cool. I'll go pay it. I've gotten to the point I'm like you, whereas if I get anything, I will go to the site on my own. Even if somebody calls me, I hang up. I say, sorry, I'll call you back. And I will hang up on them after they tell me what they want. And then I will go find a number on my own and call it and make sure everything matches.
Yeah. And one of my clients took over their finances for their parents. And they said, hey, mom, dad, they had a few of these kind of close calls with fraud. They said, Dad, I'm just going to do this for you. And what was interesting is Dad was a very proud man, kind of never relied on anyone, and said to his daughter, thank you. There was no battle. It was just like, you know what? It's time. Because they were spending so much time trying to watch out for each other that it becomes an issue. Now, let's be real. Not all family members are well-intentioned. So I have somebody else I was thinking about, and family has a couple kids, and they're all trying to take care of the parents. And one of the kids is kind of hiding things from everybody else. And they're kind of controlling the parents where they go. The parents can no longer drive for themselves. So anywhere they go, they have to go with this one kid. And when I start seeing those things, they're not sharing answers across, my spidey sense starts going, this is leading towards elder abuse. They may mean well, but there's a control factor that's going on there. And you start worrying about what's going missing? Is money going missing? Are items going missing? Are they backing up the moving truck and loading up? We don't know. And you'd love to say, oh, my sister, my brother would never do that. Yeah, but they might. Or it might be their crazy spouse. Let's blame them instead. I don't know what it is, but it is a reality check that you could have family members taking advantage of your own elders.
I think another thing to watch out for too is if there is a particular person who really has not been around much for many years, and then all of a sudden when the parent passes, they start coming around more, or they're showing up, and just it's fishy. It's very fishy, and it makes it easy to go, I don't really trust you and trust what you're doing and your intentions are with this family member, just because all of a sudden they are suddenly a lot more present when money is being doled out versus before.
Yeah. And, let's be real. Some people kind of are okay with that. I had a gentleman I met with. He was actually a vet, and he gets a pension from the vet. He's disabled. He got his Social Security check. And he called me because he was trying to figure out, should he take out a loan to do some repairs around his house? And I'm doing the math, and I'm like, I got your expenses. You've got this pension. You got this disability check. You got Social Security. I'm like, you should have more than enough money to pay for this yourself. Where's the money going? And I started talking to him, pulling apart. And come to find out, here's what happened. On about the third of every month, somebody, being a niece, nephew, friend, would come by and be like, hey, my transmission just blew in my van. I can't get my kids to school. Is there any way you could help? And you know what was interesting to me is they always came on the third of the month. Why? Because that check got deposited on the first. It's available about the second or third. And every single month they had a story. And I said to him, I said, look, you're being taken advantage of. And we talked about it. And there actually was like a couple family members like together doing this. Like each was like kind of taking turns. And I'm like, this is really not good. And I said to him, I said, I'm really worried for you. And in the end, he essentially said to me, you know what? If I stop giving them money, they'll stop showing up. I'm going to keep giving them money. And I'm like, my heart is just aching.
That's so sad.
But it's true though.
It is, but
you can see it. And I was like, then they're not really your friends or family. And he goes,
yeah,
but. And this goes to that community thing. He was single, no kids, and I'm like in tears falling out for him. Like, he's being abused. He knows it. He's being financially manipulated and he's okay with it because otherwise he's got nothing.
Yeah. And that's sickening. Absolutely sickening.
And let's shift this. Let's talk about your own time as elder because you could be in this. This is a particular issue for the soloist, single with no kids. How do I build a community? How do I build support? You don't want people coming by on the third for a check, and that's the only time you get to talk to them. This is a big deal. And I think child-free folks often kind of worry about, who's going to make decisions for me when they're older. And we're launching a product we call Childfree Legacy. We've got a thing we call Childfree Trust, where we're going to serve as child-free people's executor, medical power, and financial power attorney. It's not out yet. You can go to childfreelegacy.com. You can actually get on the mailing list, where we're going to do the actual mechanics of making the decisions for you. Yeah, we charge a fee for that, but we will be the ones watching out for you as your next of kin. Now, that kind of checks the box of how do I make sure I'm not, being taken advantage of from a financial standpoint because I have a fiduciary doing that for me. If you don't do that, we get into this problem. So I had somebody say, well, I have this nephew and I don't really know him. He's across the country, but maybe I can give him my estate and he'll take care of me. And I'm like, oh, that's setting up for abuse. Like, I just don't like that. And by the way, do I really want to be a burden on them? And what happens, people are like, oh, but I don't have another option. And I'm like, well, that's why we're launching Childfree Legacy to do this. That's why we're launching this product. We've been working on it for years because it's such a big need because you have to trust the people that are going to be making decisions for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Trust them, know them, and you have to have a good relationship with them. Similar to what you said too, was they'll say, oh, I'll put this down or I'll give them money to take care of me. And I'm like, I don't love that answer. It just always gets my spidey senses going up every single time I hear that. It just feels like it's trying to buy if you're trying to buy care, it should be separate from the people who are also receiving any money that's left over in the end. And you shouldn't be buying care from that same person because, when you're hiring a company, you're paying the company to do that. After you're gone, that money is going somewhere else, wherever you direct it. There's no financial incentive to keep your accounts high and keep money in your bank account in order to receive it at the end.
Yeah, and in California or Arizona, you could appoint a professional fiduciary to do that for you. In the other 48 states, you can't. That's why we're launching this other product, and there'll be more details on that coming. But the bottom line is you have to have a plan. You have to have a will, medical power attorney, financial power attorney that says what you want to protect you from this abuse. If you don't put the paperwork in place, you end up in the worst nightmare, which is the government making decisions for you. Okay, and I'm not even talking politics right now. Like, it's not about who's making, the red team, the blue team. No, I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about people that are court appointed to make decisions for you. They have no freaking clue who you are. Yeah, we'll include a link. There's a great story. A gentleman died with $11 million, no will, no next of kin. And a lawyer was like, hey, I will go find their next of kin. Well, you ever wonder why that lawyer is signing up and going to court to find the next kin? It's because they're going to eat up that $11 million estate in legal fees. They're going to spend it going to find folks. There's a whole system that's created that if you don't appoint somebody to make decisions for you, you get a court-appointed guardian or conservator. And that person doesn't know you, but they're making money off of you to charge fees. And while I'd love to say there's some with best interest, and there are, it's also where the horror stories in the movies come from of like the caregiver taking advantage of it. Like the worst case are the ones like the caregivers taking advantage of the person and then they convince them to change the will to put them into the will. Like, oh, that is nightmare fuel.
Yeah, and to me, I'm always thinking, there should be a certain point where you just cannot change your will anymore. But how do you clearly define that? You can go through the court system. It still can be tricky though, especially if the person you're paying to help you then convinces you and is also the lawyer who can write the paperwork.
Yeah, it's a legal nightmare. And by the way, part of the reason why they go after us as child-free folks is because there's no next of kin to fight it.
Yeah. I mean, who would know, really?
Yeah. And that's where we have to protect ourselves. Like this elder abuse stuff, this is scary stuff. There's a great book Sara Zeff Geber did on essential retirement planning for solo agers. She talks a lot about how do you build a community. We had her on the podcast. It was kind of weird. She was like, I like people living in like trailer parks because then they're all a small, tight-knit community watching out for each other. It's kind of that Golden Girls setup. Some of that can work. I kind of want both. I want you to have a community and then appoint a professional to be making the decisions for you. But you appoint the professional, not, hey, the court randomly found somebody and put my name on their list.
And I think along with that too, you probably should have somebody who knows kind of what your situation looks like, you can trust as well, because, hey, as child-free people, it could easily be a situation in which you've got somebody and you've hired them. They're supposed to take care of it all. You have people included in your will who are supposed to receive things. But I mean, my goodness, if I didn't know the ins and outs of my family's finances, I could easily be told by the lawyer, whoever, oh, there's nothing left. And here's your $2 in the end, when really there is something left. So I like the idea of telling people and having the conversation. I mean, just having a little bit of clarity with whoever's going to receive it. You don't have to give them the whole details, but say, hey, I've planned out like this amount should go to you or this, and this is where things look like, just so you know, I'm paying somebody to take care of it. But I also want you to be aware. I love a little bit more transparency and having multiple people know what that situation looks like.
Yeah. And by the way, I'm okay with sharing the documents. Here's a copy of it. Putting that, have the context. And I think what happens is the way to protect yourself in your older years, by the way, the answer is to start really young. Like 40s and 50s is when you should really start planning around this. If you're older than that, great, we can catch up. But you want to know what local resources there are there programs that can be part of, what community it is, and you want to have people around you that can help in different areas. So the person making financial decisions may be somebody different than the one that you call because you're lonely on a Friday night. No, I mean like this example I was talking about, this gentleman where he's only got people visiting because they get money. No, I want to be able to call and be like, hey, did you see this show? Like, I'm watching this on Netflix, like, or did you see this game or whatever? Like, you've got to have a community that's your connection, and it could be around anything. I don't, that's up to you. My wife's now part of a bunch of groups on therapy dogs and other things, and they're mostly older women. I mean, like 70s and 80s, and she's the youngest by like 40 years. But like, they get together and they talk about their dogs and they hang out, and like, the biggest worry they have is, do we have the right tablecloth for an event? Okay, fine. Like, that's a community. That is not the one that's going to be like making medical decisions for you. But people try to like kind of mush these together, like that Golden Girls setup, and like, I'm going to just have this one community that can do it all. No, we need different people in our lives at different times for different reasons. And we all have a different sense of community, but we need somebody to watch out for us, and we can watch out for them. Where, maybe the answer is, hey, we're going to talk on the phone every day for 5 minutes, just check in with each other. That's fine. You can build a support system that prevents abuse. The key is not to be isolated. If you're isolated and you're relying on one person to do all of it, then let's be real, they could just take advantage of you.
Yeah, and that's not a good situation to be in, is being out there, having people know you and know kind of your habits and routines can be super important. And you don't have to be super close with them, but, I've got an elderly individual living next to me, and there have been a couple times I've come really close to calling a wellness check because I know their habits, I know their routines, we chat, and things just seem off. You never know. In college, I walked out my front door one day to find the coroner right there, and the elderly gentleman next to me had passed. And you just don't know what somebody's situation is and what goes through, and somebody's not going to know if you don't take the time to even introduce yourself or say something or talk to them. So get to know your neighbors. I think knowing your neighbors can be super helpful because, hey, I come home and the garage door is still open over there at the neighbors. That's odd. It shouldn't be open at this time. Car's not there. What's going on? Or the car is there and the door's been open for 24 hours. Something strange.
So what we just learned is that Bree is the nosy neighbor who's going to be watching you leave your house.
Hell yeah. I'm so nosy. I talk to everybody, and I have a neighbor who's moving out. They moved out yesterday, and they wouldn't start talking, and they wouldn't even wave to the past month. Oh, drives me nuts. But hell yeah, I am the nosy neighbor, and I'm proud of that. Hey, listeners, like what you're hearing? Don't miss a thing. Sign up for the Childfree Wealth newsletter for weekly tips, tools, and podcast updates. Head to childfreewealth.com/newsletter to get on the list.
I'm the neighbor you would hate because, I sit here, I can watch people go by, and I'll give them a wave if I want, but I'm not talking to you. Like, it's just different. I've got my own community in different ways, and I think the challenge is figuring out what works for you. You need to build a support structure. I will encourage you that most states have some good systems to help elderly folks. There's also a lot of great volunteer organizations, nonprofits. I've recently been kind of doing a lot of deep dives. There's a group out of New York called Tarot, and we'll include a link. And they've got great educational programs. They've got how to connect volunteers to each other. They have all these different things like how do you think about your elder years and how do you build a support structure and what can you get access to? Like a silly one, great example that I love is many states will allow people over 65 to go to college courses for free. You're technically auditing. You're not looking for a degree. Sometimes they'll even give you a degree, but that's just a cool thing to do. Like you go and learn about puppetry. Now, by the way, I'm not joking about puppetry. University of Connecticut, where I got my PhD, has master's programs in puppetry. Like, cool.
Gotta do it.
Well, actually, a lot of their folks go to work for Sesame Street, and they created Avenue Q out of there. And lots of cool things. But it can be whatever you want. But you need to know those things are there. You need to look and do that. You need to figure out what's in your community. And sometimes, by the way, the answer is to move. I'm a big fan of that 55 and older type communities, CCRCs, other things where there's care there. There's a lot of now luxury retirement communities where, they have dinner. Like I was looking at one, they got like a Michelin starred chef there. And, they have events almost every day. They have all different things. They have housekeeping, they have concierge, they have transportation, all built in. I love that. Now, by the way, not cheap. I'm just gonna be transparent on that. You're gonna have to spend some money, and that's gonna have to be part of your financial plan. But you get to choose what type of care you want, what type of support. And if you're in one of those communities, you already have a built-in nosy neighbor. You don't need Bree.
Yeah, and there's different hotels too, where you can start living in hotels now. and I'll be sorry for all of you who don't have me as a neighbor, but that's another story for another day. Another resource you can check out is the library, your local library. I know we have stuff going on at ours all the time for elderly individuals or just anybody who is at like 50, 55 plus and older. There's constantly things going on and different resources you can gain. But having community is so important. And my personal opinion is that now, with the ability to pay people for so many things, we have lost a bit of our community because you can easily DoorDash all your food. You can have everything delivered to you. And while I think that's okay to a point, it's almost eroding our sense of community, eroding our social relationships, which we really need, especially as we go and age and need somebody there to at least know what's going on and kind of help us out.
Yeah. And in the end, I think that the challenge we always get as child-free folks, you get the question of like, who's going to take care of you when you're older? All right. And our answer now is your plan is going to take care of you when you're older with our help. You're going to see a bunch of work we're doing around child-free legacy and other things that we're doing to provide support to child-free people, to help tackle some of the financial stuff, to make decisions for them, do other things, because we need to build a system that does this. It's about a quarter of people in the United States have no family near them or disenfranchised from their family. If you're single and you have no family around you, it can feel really isolating. And I hear that. Well, the way to handle that is to create a plan and execute it. You know, that plan includes who's my community and who's going to support me and what are my finances. Like, there's a lot that goes into it. You know, we got whole episodes on long-term care, all that. The key is if you're going to prevent yourself from being another statistic on elder abuse, you have to have a plan built that you execute on that you feel comfortable with.
If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving a rating or review. We'd love to keep the conversation going. Please let us know your thoughts wherever comments are available or email us at media@childfreewealth.com. To stay up to date, find and follow Childfree Wealth on social media. If you're interested in working with us, learn more by visiting our website, childfreewealth.com. We'll see you next time.